and gentlemen, my name is Parker Nirenstein, this is Vehicle Versions, and today we are going to McLaren Newport Beach to check out if the 675 LT is honestly the one car that I would trade and get rid of this Huracan for. The big thing for this week is 20% off all Vehicle Versions merchandise. So, shirt like this, a bunch of other options, sweatshirts, sweatpants. All you gotta do is go to lightgravityshop.com, you click login, you sign up on the website, and Wednesday, November 29th, you're gonna get an email with a coupon code that gives you the 20% off. Simple as that, a little Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale for you guys. That sale does end December 5th, so make sure to do it quick if you want some merchandise. The big question is, what the heck is this video about? What do I mean when I replace my Huracan with the 675 LT? Well, to be honest, I love this car so much, especially with the supercharger, that there's nothing right away that strikes me as, yep, you know what, I'd want to get rid of the Huracan if I had the extra money for such and such car. There really isn't. There's other cars that I want, of course, and there's other cars that are significantly more expensive that I'd rather have than the Huracan. But right around this range, and even just the under $500,000 range, there really isn't much else out there that I'd like to have. Now, I don't anticipate getting rid of this anytime soon just because it feels like such an amazing part of the channel, but the 675 LT speaks to me, and I want to see, could it truly be an alternative to this car? Let's find out. What are the flippin' odds of that? There is a 675 right there. There's only 500 675 LT coupes in the world. I'm reviewing one today, and then as I'm talking about reviewing one, another 675 LT coupe pulls up next to me. Well, as much fun as this is to drive, it's time to switch over to the Mercedes because, well, it doesn't really store all of my camera equipment very well. All right, we got the tripods and sliders and, yeah, some junk. In order for this to make sense, to truly believe that the 675 LT is a better alternative, and that I should sell my Huracan to get a 675 LT, I've decided I need to come up with 5 reasons why I prefer the LT to the Huracan. Here we are, and that right there looks like the green 675 LT that I'm gonna be driving today. Just arrived at McLaren Newport Beach, got this beautiful glacier white 720S and this green 675 LT. This is apparently the last non-registered brand new P1 for sale. The low price of $2.99 million. What's up, man? How's it going? I've got the key to the 675 LT. Let's go ahead and open up these beautiful butterfly doors and hop in. You can certainly tell right away that this is the track-focused variant of the 650S. We're gonna drive over, get some exterior shots of the car, some glamour shots, and then snap right into the review. The McLaren 675 LT, the ultimate version of the 650S. It's faster, it's lighter, it's more powerful, and it's a lot more expensive. And today we're gonna find out if this is worth the $100,000 premium over the 650S. I wanna give a special shout out to McLaren of Newport Beach for making this video happen. There's a link in the description below for this exact car. It's for sale now for $339,000. So right off the bat, how do you tell the difference between a 675 LT and a 650S? Well, let's start with the front end. The new splitter is 80% larger than that on the 650S. And most characteristically, it's got these F1 inspired vertical end plates that to us common folk just look simply incredible. And in an aerodynamic standpoint, channel air up over the front quarter panel, giving more downforce on the front of the car and thus improving initial turn-in. that we move down the bodywork and there's an MSO optional carbon fiber or body colored fender vents. Now it's not optioned on this car. It is one of the coolest and most signature 675 LT stylistic elements. They also have it on the Porsche GT3 RS. Now one of the most costly options. I believe it was somewhere in the $40,000 to $60,000 range when new, but now these cars on the used markets are commanding a $100,000 premium over the ones without it. That is the optional MSO roof scoop. That's right, there's a scoop on the top of the car, just like in the P1, that sucks in air and shoots it into the turbochargers. When you're actually inside the vehicle, you can hear the air get sucked over your head, and it makes the driving experience a lot more exciting. Now, would I pay an extra $100,000 more for some air blowing over my head? Probably not. But if I had the money, you bet I would. Fourth up is the signature center exhaust. When McLaren released the 675 LT, the entire automotive industry was staring at the rear end of the car. Notice the new Huracan Performante center exhaust. Aftermarket companies like Vorstein are with the Novara RS center exhaust. Now the 650S and the 12C did have a center mounted exhaust, but these rounded, smaller, and more prominent tips really complete the look. Lastly, we have the massive functional rear wing. It's 50% larger than the 650S, and while it's not exactly a long tail like the name suggests, it is a big tail. When you apply the brakes intensely, this actually acts as an air brake. It tilts all the way up and helps the car slow down 60 to 0 miles an hour in just 94 feet. It also can adjust to help the aerodynamics of the car if it's trying to be more streamlined or get some more downforce in cornering. So, 675 LT. What does the name even mean? Well, 675 is the metric horsepower number. In American units, that is 666 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. I think it's kind of funny that it is the devil's number, given the fact that this car has such out-of-this-world performance. It kind of is the devil to every other auto manufacturer that isn't McLaren. Second is LT. That is a reference back to the McLaren F1 GTR Longtail. Interestingly enough, the McLaren F1, as good of a road car as it was, wasn't actually ever meant to be a race car. But McLaren's customers demanded, you guys need to race the car, and so they put the McLaren F1 in the form of the F1 GTR in the 1995 season at 24 Hour of Le Mans. And despite competing against more powerful, more track-focused prototypes, they finished first, third, fourth, 5th, and 13th in 24 Hour of Le Mans. After McLaren's domination, other manufacturers started taking note. So for the 1997 season, McLaren came back with the F1 GTR Longtail. They called it that because it was 25 inches longer than the normal McLaren F1. It was also 135 kilograms lighter. Now, while the 675 LT isn't exactly 25 inches longer than the 650S, it has that same philosophy. It's more intense, it's lighter, it's more powerful than the normal road car. The good news is, you happen to be able to drive this one on the street. Behind me is a 3.8 liter twin turbocharged V8 producing 666 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. The car is light, extremely light. 2,993 pounds, in fact, and that means because of its 7-speed double clutch transmission, 0 to 60 happens in a face-ripping 3 seconds. But my favorite part about the LT is that titanium exhaust behind me actually has some soul to it. You see, with the 650S, the 12C, and even the new 720S, the V8 sounds so smooth, so refined. Now that's perfect for the ultimate daily drivable supercar. But for something that you want to be exciting, really exhilarating, it just doesn't have that something special, and the LT does. And that makes me really happy. That was one thing coming into this review that I was a little bit nervous about was, I know it's gonna drive well, but is it going to sound the part? That's an important part of creating a supercar, and they've nailed it in the LT. You might be wondering, how is it possible that a car with 666 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, and this light can possibly put the power down to the ground whatsoever? Well, McLaren is smarter than the average manufacturer, and they have limited torque to only 80% of total in first gear so that you don't unleash an epic burnout on the way out. Now, you can put it into a pseudo burnout mode and do that if you wish. But if you're trying to take off the line or do a face-ripping quarter mile, you can do so. The quarter mile, by the way, happens in a brisk 10.5 seconds, but what's more impressive than that is the trap speed of 139 miles per hour. Oh, this car sounds like nothing else I've ever been in from McLaren. Now, the P1 does have a similar and probably slightly more intense sound than the 675, but they did a spectacular job with this car, ladies and gentlemen. The car is as rare as it is an incredible performer. Just 500 coupes were made and 500 spiders. That means prices are high and going to continue to be high. McLaren has totally changed their brand structure. Now they're coming out with a new car every 6 years. So they come out with the coupe, then 2 years later they have the spider, then 2 years after that they have the LT, and then 2 years after that they come out with the new vehicle. That's going to keep McLaren from accidentally competing with itself, coming out with a new model and then all of a sudden you don't want the old one as much. But the LT, this line of more track-focused Super Series, is always going to be and hold a special part in the McLaren lineup. This car right now that I'm driving is actually a fairly reasonable $339,000. With MSO options like the Fender Vents, different colors, especially the roof scoop, you can push the car way above $400,000, especially for the spiders with some options. Oh! The sound it makes between shifts, that little pop, that blat, is just unbelievably exciting. We're in sport mode right now. We've got two different dials. You click active here on the center console, and we have the handling dial and the powertrain dial. The handling dial is going to differentiate between different levels of comfort with the suspension. Honestly, this is a track-focused car, so there's no reason to ever really go into normal mode, but if you do, it is more comfortable than you're likely used to in a high-performance race car of sorts. Let's talk about the weight for a second, because honestly, that's where McLaren is killing the game. 2,993 pounds. That's a random number. For those of you who don't know how that compares to some of its competitors, let me show you. The Aventador Sv, a little bit more expensive. It's the fast car from Lamborghini. You can't say that the Huracan competes with the LT because it gets destroyed. So let's go with the Aventador Sv, the closest in terms of power figures and aero and all of that. How much does that weigh? Now, the SV is the lighter version of the Aventador, the higher performance model. 3,900 pounds. That's right, 1,000 pounds more than the LT. That does not make up for the horsepower difference. Yes, the LT has only 666 horsepower compared to 750, although McLaren is pretty good at underrating their power, as shown by the 720S, that's putting down close to 700 horsepower to the wheels, not 710 at the crank. This car is just out of this world to drive. Oh, it's so powerful. It just responds to the tiniest little movements. The steering wheel is so responsive, it's absolutely staggering. Now, the turning radius is actually quite laughable for a rear-wheel drive car. If you're turning around in a parking lot, sometimes you have to put it in reverse and do a 3-point turn. Interior comfort, we've got carbon fiber and Alcantara absolutely everywhere. It's spacious in here. I have plenty of headroom. And because it's rear-wheel drive, unlike its Lamborghini competitor, you have plenty of trunk space as well. And I mean plenty of trunk space. The seats, if you are a bigger individual, I do not think you are going to fit in the 675 LT. Anything over about 190, 200 pounds, and you are going to be falling out of these bucket seats. But for anyone smaller than that, and anyone honestly up to 6'4", maybe even 6'5", you can fit in this car with no problem at all. Now, some issues with the car, it is very, very hard to get into. The steering wheel, even when put all the way up to the highest position it can go, is quite close to the carbon fiber seat. And if you're wearing pants with a wallet in it or anything like that, climbing in can be quite difficult. Now, I'm supposed to come up with 5 reasons why I like this car more than the Huracan, and that would justify. Now, I'm supposed to come up with 5 reasons that I prefer this car over the Huracan, and that is justification for, would I truly want this instead of my supercharged Huracan? And honestly, after driving it, it's pretty much a resounding yes. The positives of the McLaren: it's very, very lightweight. It's significantly 400 to 500 pounds lighter than the Huracan. Downsides of other McLarens that would make me prefer the Lamborghini over the McLaren counterpart would be the sound, but they fixed that in the LT. The titanium exhaust, this thing sounds absolutely mental. The looks, the front and the rear and the side, every angle of the LT is absolutely stunning. I hope that gets conveyed in this video because it honestly is drop dead gorgeous. This car is mantis green. Funny enough, there's Verde Mantis from Lamborghini, but also with those butterfly doors that open up, pretty hard to compete with that. So we've got lightweight, the sound, the looks, just how fun it is to drive. Honestly, an overall package, this might be the most fun car I've ever driven in my entire life. And I don't say that lightly. I'm thinking back, I've said that a couple times recently, and that's because I've driven the pinnacle of automotive engineering recently with the Performante and the 720S. This is leagues above all of them. And honestly, yes, the 720S is crazy fast in a straight line. For what I like personally, a more raw, exciting car, I'd rather have a 75 LT over the 720S any day of the week. Visibility in the LT is incredible as well. Tons of visibility out the front windshield. We've got a great amount of visibility out of the rear as long as the wing isn't up. When that's up, yeah, you can't see anything. Out of the side, it's very easy to see. Honestly, this car, despite being a $350,000 supercar, is not intimidating to drive whatsoever. Actually, the most intimidating part of the entire vehicle is the horrible turning radius. In front of me is this large center-mounted rounded tachometer that revs up to 8,500 RPMs. Oh, the daytime running lights are brilliant in the McLaren. The steering wheel feels perfect in your hands. It's Alcantara, which can be a little bit slippery if you're not wearing driving gloves. Carbon fiber paddles that are kind of this raw, unfinished carbon look that feel great in your hands. They're the perfect 9 and 3 position. They're very easy to use, and like all McLarens, they have the rocker design to them, so you can actually upshift and downshift from the same paddle. All of the pedals are quite close together. If you have massive feet, it will be a little bit difficult to drive this car, although Alejandro has very big feet and he's able to drive his 675 LT and 720S just fine. I do notice my feet sometimes clunking into each other a little bit, but not overly annoying. Special thanks to McLaren Newport Beach again for this incredible opportunity. The car is for sale. There's a link in the description below for the inventory to show you this specific car. Honestly, for 339 grand, I'm almost regretting posting this video because I think I want it. And by I think I want it, I mean I really, really want this car. I need this car in my life. I really do. All right, there are some downsides. The infotainment's not all that great. The backup camera is kind of laughable. They have fixed that. McLaren has learned. The 720S doesn't have any of those problems whatsoever, but I could care less. I don't actually care whatsoever about those issues. All right, well, I'm gonna pull over here, switch over to a point of view camera and show you what it's like to drive this thing first person. What's up, guys? So I have switched to the point of view angle to show you what it's actually like to drive the 675 LT. Here is the key. It's carbon fiber. Let's actually show off the front trunk here, shall we? Slide this to the left. Tons of space. I mean, I've got a full-size tripod in here. I've got camera equipment, a blanket, so on and so forth. Go ahead and close that. Now, to open the door handles themselves are hidden. There's actually a little button right here. Click that. Open the door. I love the way this car looks from every angle. Now, it's crazy. This is actually made out of plastic to save weight, and the front windshield is actually 1 millimeter thinner than the 650S's glass to save weight. That is how big of attention to detail for weight savings they have given. It's pretty hard to get into the car. Slide your feet in here. See, there's not much room right there. Seat belt here. Fire up the engine. Let's go ahead and click reverse. We click that right there. Backup camera graphics, not the best. They actually load really slowly. It kind of feels like you're playing an ancient video game. But we'll go ahead, lift the parking brake there and back up a tiny bit. All right, now let's go ahead and shift the right paddle into first gear. Here, you have to click active in order to activate this control panel. Here is handling, normal, sport, track. Like I said before, let's leave it in sport and sport. We've clicked manual, so we have manual shifting, and off we go. The steering wheel honestly feels so great in your hands. And if you hold it at 9 and 3, which you should be, there's this little extra meatiness behind the steering wheel that when you just let your fingers off slightly, they reach the perfect position for these filed off blade-looking carbon fiber paddles. The smallest inputs in the steering result in turning the car to a great degree. So right here, we got a dip coming up. This is one of the great features of McLaren's, although I wish it was a little bit more easy to activate the lift. Push forward on this lower stalk here, go to the left, pull back, and move the stalk up, and the vehicle is rising. Let's hit this at an angle. Let's give it some gas, shall we? Wow. Alright guys, it's getting dark, which means unfortunately it is time to return the McLaren. But honestly, I haven't been this blown away by a car that I've reviewed in an extremely long time or ever. I'm kind of dumbfounded about how good the 675 LT is. Oh, I've got some decision making to do. What do you guys think on the channel? What would be cooler? Keep the Huracan and get a GT3 RS, or sell the Huracan and get a 675 LT? Absolutely incredible. Well, it wouldn't be a McLaren video without a police officer coming to say hi. I don't want to give this back. McLaren Newport Beach, please. Please just let me have it. I haven't been this sad having to give a car back at the end of the review, I think, ever. This is really depressing. I'm gonna miss you, buddy. Whew. What an incredible day that was driving the 675 LT. The code for the day on likegravity.com is 675 LT. Get gravity points there. There's a link in the description below and you can win rewards. And as always, if you're a pro member on Like Gravity, you get access to every single Vehicle Virgins video 24 hours in advance and access to ongoing giveaways. I'm figuring out the next giveaway car, so make sure to sign up. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.